This Jocks 94.5 podcast is brought to you by Millennium Satellite and Video. Log on to msbnow.com. TV excellence everywhere. That's Millennium. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning starts now.
Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. We will switch gears to American football at 8 a.m. Tuesday, July 7th. Don't forget, you can listen online, jocksfm.com. The app is in your app store, iPhone, Android. Download that for free. Listen on the go. You can watch us live on YouTube each and every morning. Search Jocks945. Or if you're walking around your house, tell your home smart speaker to enable the Jock skill.
Bill Smith Buick GMC is the GMC Dealer of the Year, the national champion of GMC dealers. Just take the short drive up to Coleman. You'll be glad you did. I-65, exit 310, Highway 31. You can get yourself a GMC Sierra 2500. It's a heavy-duty vehicle. It's beautiful. It's a Denali Ultimate. It's an HD, really, really nice truck. $99,030 is the list price. You can get it for $88,000. It's deals like that keep people coming back. There's a reason why 75% of their business is repeat customers. That's because you have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. Take the short drive to Coleman. You'll be glad you did. You can also shop online, have it delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
All right, let's go to the Higginbotham hotline now. George Stoia covers Oklahoma. We had an extended conversation about Oklahoma, but mainly John Mateer yesterday, and George has done a good job diving into some of the things that Mateer has been doing during his off season. George, appreciate you taking some time to join us. What have you been able to learn about some of the things that John Mateer has done differently this off season as opposed to some of the others?
Yeah, I mean, and thanks for having me on, guys. I think that for John, the biggest thing this off season has been two things. One, his throwing mechanics, which I feel like has kind of taken on this national narrative, and whether you believe in the AI pictures that have been put out there of him from the Manning Passing Academy, or some of the things that have been talked about in terms of moving his arm slot up higher and footwork and all of that. He's worked with Josh Allen's quarterback coach, Chris Hess, who's like a biomechanics engineer, and doing all this stuff with his throwing motion. That's been one narrative that's been out there, and he kind of brought that upon himself because he talked about it back in the spring, and I kind of dove into what it looks like now after this summer. And then number two is the film study. And I wrote about that yesterday. He's been that's been his number one focus, is the decision-making. And if you watched Oklahoma last year, his decision-making against some of these teams that they played just wasn't very good. Everybody remembers the pick six that he threw against Alabama there in the college football playoff. And really that play changed the momentum of that game. And so I think that that's been a huge focus. He's worked with Brent Venables a lot one-on-one in the film room, as well as now Sam Bradford has kind of reached out and been helping him, as well as obviously Ben Arbuckle, the offensive coordinator, John Kuzieski, his quarterback's coach. But I think for him, that's been more of the number one focus this offseason, is improving his decision-making, because last year it frankly just wasn't good enough down the stretch, whether it was the hand or not. And being injured, it was the decision-making that cost him a lot last year.
That, to me, is the biggest step that needs to be taken. Said it yesterday. It's like, if physical tools are there, like, yeah, okay, he's a little sidearm. Like, we can live with that. There's plenty of guys that have. To me, it's when to play hero ball, knowing when to hold them, knowing when to fold them. I need to try it here, not here. And that, to me, is the biggest step that needs to be taken. So how can you make those strides when, I guess, you're kind of ingrained in your DNA to be a playmaker? How can you kind of take a step back and maybe say, maybe now is not the time to press the gas?
I think that's a great question. And here's the thing, guys, like I've written these stories, and, it kind of gives you an insight of John is doing everything he can this offseason to get better, which you love to hear, right? You love that he's working on his mechanics. He's trying to improve his fundamentals. He's living in the film room. He's trying to understand, reading defenses and, understanding coverages and, routes and everything that goes into being a quarterback. But until we see it on the field, right, it's hard to believe that he's actually going to improve. I think the biggest thing for John is also just trusting those guys around him. I think so many times last year, they had 3 freshmen starting on the offensive line for him last year. I'm not so sure he trusted his offensive line at times. And so he was bailing out of the pocket early, or He wasn't planting his feet the right way, or he was just a half second hesitant on some of his decisions, which you can't be in that position. I think another thing that's really important to note, and I included this in my story yesterday as well, is I don't think John, you look back at his time at Washington State, and he was phenomenal in 2024. Well, part of the reason for that, and this was a narrative last year for John Mateer in Oklahoma as he came into the SEC, was he had never faced some of the defenses that he faced last year. At Washington State, he faced only 2 top 50 defenses in S&P Plus. Washington, which was 36th, and Boise State, that was 50th. Last year in the SEC, he faced 8 top 32 defenses in S&P Plus. I want to say half of those were top 15 defenses in the country. So part of the reason that we saw him struggle last year wasn't just because of the hand injury, wasn't because he needs to work on just his decision making. He was just facing a lot better competition. And I think here in Oklahoma, we just kind of swept that under the rug and said, well, they'll figure it out. He's a great player, and he was really good early in the year. We all remember the Michigan game. But clearly, as time went on, I think facing those defenses really exposed him at times. And now you just have to hope that experience this past year can improve it.
We're visiting with George Stoia, worked for On3, covers Oklahoma, and we're talking about some of the write-ups that he's had on John Mateer and some of the things he's doing this offseason. You mentioned Ben Arbuckle there briefly. What can he do, and what conversations have you heard about this offseason about him maybe calling things a little bit different, setting things up a little bit differently to help with John Mateer's decision-making this upcoming season?
Well, first, they got to be able to run the football. You know, they ranked 113th last year in rushing offense, and that was part of the problem. You know, John Mateer had, I want to say, the second highest usage rate of any quarterback in the country last year, which that's not always a good thing. You don't want your quarterback to have to be the entire offense. And as bad as John was at times, he was also usually the reason why Oklahoma was scoring the ball. It was kind of a roller coaster of, you know, if Oklahoma was moving the ball up and down the field, it's because John Mateer found a way. And so I think Ben Arbuckle has to be able to find a way to take some off his shoulders. And, you know, I think that starts with running the football. And one thing that was talked a lot about this spring is Oklahoma's going to go under center more, which we just haven't seen in Oklahoma in a long time, going under center, handing the ball off, you know, running play action. You know, they just gave Kevin Wilson, who longtime offensive coordinator, was at Oklahoma, then was at Ohio State as the offensive coordinator. Now he's back at Oklahoma as an offensive analyst. He's way more involved this year than he was last year. They just gave him, you know, a $500,000 raise, which indicates to me, hey, this guy's going to be a lot more involved in, you know, he's not going to be calling the plays, but what they're doing schematically, I do think Kevin Wilson will have some say. And you look at his history, it's a lot of outside zone and going under center, pounding the football, you know, different types of run schemes, GT counter and things of that nature, which Bill Beatembo, the offensive line coach, has become well known for. They've gotten away from that in recent years, and I think that they're going to get back to it. And I think that they're hoping that can you know, equal success. And you look at like what Indiana did last year, and I'm not saying Oklahoma's just going to go out there and replicate what Indiana did offensively, but I do think there's a recipe for success where, you know, Fernando Mendoza was awesome for Indiana, but their bread and butter was running the football and being able to turn around and hand it off, you know, 20, 30 times a game if you have to. And Oklahoma just couldn't do that. One, because their running backs just weren't very good at times. They had a young offensive line. And I think the scheme as well is very quarterback dependent. So I do think Ben Arbuckle has spent this offseason kind of looking at what they're doing offensively and maybe changing some things up.
So looking at the supporting cast, because I'm of belief that last year's supporting cast was a bit underwhelming. I think Satania was amazing. And the offensive line was inconsistent. I thought the running backs were inconsistent. I thought Kanik, for whatever reason, disappeared after the first 4 games. I'm not sure why that happened. But Burke, I thought, was kind of underwhelming. You know, I thought that they had some injuries in some spots that you thought they'd have a chance. So how would you say the overall supporting cast is going to look around Mateer this year?
I think it'll look better. And I think a lot of what you're saying is correct, because last year, by the end of the year, it was the John Mateer and Isaiah Satania show. And if those guys didn't show up, you know, Oklahoma wasn't going to score the football. And, you know, we saw some glimpses from an Xavier Robinson at running back who, you know, had a great game against Ole Miss, which they ended up losing, but he was really the only offense there. But then he ends up getting hurt at the end of the season and just wasn't the same player there in the playoff. Torrey Blaylock, the freshman running back, same thing. He was banged up, and both those guys are back. You hope that those guys can be their full healthy selves, and if they are, then I think they can be good players for you. But it's a big if. You've got a couple freshman running backs and Jonathan Hatton and DeZephin Walker that they're really high on, but they're freshmen. Can they step up? And then at wide receiver, I think that's where people are most excited, at least here in Norman, is you bring in Trell Harris from Virginia, an all ACC type of player, 800-something yards, veteran guy, he's been around college football for forever. You hope that he can be a really good possession receiver for you. You bring in Parker Livingston from Texas, who had a really good year last year for the Longhorns and just brings a lot of size, 6'4", big-bodied guy, can go up and catch the football. Oklahoma didn't have that last year. Didn't have somebody that could go up and just get a big jump ball. So they hope that he can. And then you bring back Isaiah Satania, who's one of the fastest and more electric wide receivers in college football. So you hope that those are all better. And then you have the tight end group, which they just didn't have a tight end last year. You mentioned Jaron Kanik. He played technically tight end. He was listed as a tight end, but he was 6'2", 220. He was more of a big slot receiver type of player, and he had moments where he was really good, and then he disappeared. Like you said, this year they have, Hayden Hansen, who was a 4-year starter or 3-year starter for Florida, 6'7", 270 pounds. I don't think he's going to be a huge threat in the passing game. Maybe in the red zone we see him a lot, but certainly I think he can help in the run game, and that's one reason why Oklahoma couldn't run the ball last year, is they couldn't block anybody on the edge at tight end. So you bring him in, you bring in Rocky Beers from Colorado State, another big-bodied wide receiver, Jack Van Dorseeler from Tennessee. You bring him in at tight end. So they feel like they've surrounded John with a lot more talent than maybe they had a year ago. And I think on paper, it certainly looks like the most talented roster Brent Venables has had in his tenure. The problem is they also face one of the most difficult schedules in the country. So I think Oklahoma could be an improved football team, and I think they'll be improved around John Mateer. I don't know if that necessarily means Oklahoma is going to win 10 games again, because they have to go on the road to Michigan, on the road to Georgia, Texas, and Dallas. You get A&M and Ole Miss at home. You finish the season with Missouri on the road. Like it's a really difficult path. So it makes this Oklahoma team, I think, one of the more interesting teams, because I do think they're better than they were a year ago, at least on paper. But I don't know if that means that they're going to be in the college football playoff again.
You can find George's work as he joins us on the Higginbotham Hotline on the On3 Sports Network at Sooner Scoop, at George Stoia, Stoia. Follow him on Twitter. You mentioned the Sam Bradford situation a little bit earlier. Can you take us further into how that happened? What happened with that for him to begin working with Mateer this offseason?
Yeah, it's a fun story, because I don't know how much you guys know Sam Bradford or have talked to him, but he's a really quiet guy. He's not necessarily someone who wants to be out in the public. And I'll even tell you guys, I'm not so sure he wanted this story to be written at first. And I got him to do the interview and obviously got the green light on that. But like, he's very much a behind the scenes type of guy, and he loves Oklahoma. He lives here in Oklahoma City still. And he started to kind of get back around the program when Brent Venables was hired. Obviously they go back. Brent was the defensive coordinator when Sam was the quarterback in Oklahoma. So he's been around the program a little bit more. And he started to get to know John last year, went out to a couple practices, watched him from a distance. Sam goes to every OU game, and after the season just reached out and said, hey, let's grab dinner. And they started chatting. And I think John asked him, like, hey, would you want to come up to the facility sometime and just, can I pick your brain, basically? Can we watch some film together? And it sounds like they turned on the film of John's season this last year and sat there and studied several times. I don't think this was just a one-time deal. I think that they've met together multiple times and kind of looked at film. And Sam, when he played at Oklahoma and even in the NFL, he was considered one of the highest IQ quarterbacks out there and a pure passer and all of those things. And I think Sam even gave him some tips on his mechanics, but I think Sam also was able to kind of give him some different perspective on just reading defenses, understanding coverages and things of that nature. So kind of a really cool relationship, especially for OU fans to hear about, because Sam, again, is not someone that is like Baker Mayfield, who's just kind of always out there and doing something and talking about how much he loves OU. Sam is very much behind the scenes, kind of lives in his own world, has a place up in Wyoming that I think he kind of escapes to in the off season. And we don't hear much from him, and we don't see him on the big screen or on TV being at OU games or at OU events. So to hear him kind of give back to the university, I think is a pretty cool thing for Oklahoma fans.
George, we appreciate the time today, man. Great stuff. Great insight. Thanks for hopping on, and we'll do it again soon.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
There you go. George Stoia covers Oklahoma for the On3 Sports Network at George Stoia, George Stoia. Follow him on Twitter. A couple good write-ups just on Mateer's offseason, what he's been doing, how he's been working, what's going to change, what could be different, and why. And working with Sam Bradford could be one. If he does take a big step, make big improvement, who would be joining him from the SEC? Biggest jumps for SEC quarterbacks. Who potentially could that be? We'll discuss it next right here on Jocks.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, three-man front video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.
So if John Mateer does make a big jump this year, who joins him in the SEC? Now, here's where this becomes a little bit difficult. 800-239-9569 if you want to get in. You can text in 205-834-9450. Some, Greg, of these quarterbacks that are going to take a leap this year were not SEC quarterbacks last year. So that's where things become a little bit complicated when you're talking about who in the SEC maybe takes a step forward at quarterback, has a bigger year than expected, makes a jump as far as just what they are as a college quarterback and kind of the expectation that's going to come with them. But after Mateer, if you looked at who takes the bigger step, and I don't think this has to be quarterbacks that weren't very good last year or were disappointing last year, just guys that are going to be better than what they were the year before. Who comes to mind for you as far as maybe who takes the biggest step amongst SEC QBs?
Well, I mean, the biggest steps are probably amongst the guys that have played. Like, I think we had to qualify it is the guys that what they were last week, we have a sneak peek of what they've been, and now we can forecast where they're going. I think it'd be easy to say, well, you could just go and pick whoever starts at Bama and them taking a big step. Well, we don't know. We don't know what they are yet. So I think just leaving things open-ended on the front end is probably the smartest way of approaching that. But the guy that I anticipate having a big year is probably Lenore Sellers. I think he's poised to have a really nice season based on what he was last year. I feel like Lenore Sellers 2 years ago got by just on God-given natural ability. And I feel like last year he tried to do that, but people were more prepared for it. Now I think he's going to be able to beat you as an actual quarterback. Like, it's kind of like the Dak Prescott type of development and the growth that he showed from year 1 to year 2 to year 3. Early on, it was just guy was playing out of his mind just because he's a great athlete. Second year, it's like, all right, well, maybe definitely made a step, but it was definitely athletic more. It was more a little bit of the quarterback run, other elements of that. And then in the third year or fourth year, whatever year it was, like, man, he started throwing darts. I mean, like really, really accurate and started carving you up through the air. So I think Lenore Sellers would probably be at the top of my list about guys that could have a big breakthrough.
The way that I described it when Dak was at Mississippi State is he went from one of the best football players in the league to one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And I feel like that's right in line with what you're saying about Lenore Sellers. Is great football player, hasn't always been great quarterback, and that could change this year.
Yeah.
Consistency, timing, rhythm, tempo of the football, decision making at his position as well. And I think some of that's going to be how he's utilized. We had South Carolina a couple times last year, and Shane Beamer would be losing his mind of like, we've got to run the quarterback. And you want to protect him. You don't want to just put him in harm's way just to do it. But there are times that things are there, and he needed to run the football.
Yeah.
And it wasn't on him. It was just the offense's design didn't call for that a lot of times when you probably needed it, and then therefore didn't utilize it. But if we're going to go with what you said, guys that we've seen that are sort of proven commodities, I think that kind of removes Alabama. It probably removes a little bit of Arkansas. It removes probably Florida, I would say, from this discussion. Kentucky, I don't really think is going to be a part of this. Missouri, maybe. We can talk about Austin Simmons. Is he a guy that takes maybe the biggest jump? It's going to be hard because the main thing you got to do is stay healthy, and he hasn't really done that for a full season yet. Tennessee is probably not going to be a part of this conversation. Neither is Vanderbilt. So if we take the guys who have played outside of Lenore Sellers, who do you feel like else? Is Kamario Taylor going to take a big leap this year? Is he the guy that maybe takes a big jump from Mississippi State? I mean, we've seen some of Kenny Minchey.
He's really good.
I think he's got a chance. He's athletic. He's talented. We don't know how good of a quarterback he is just yet. Does Sam Leavitt have much room for improvement, especially in this offense?
Definitely. I think Sam Leavitt's already pretty good and already pretty well thought of. I just think that the injuries have maybe held up his development long term. So he'd be a guy I'd be bullish on, but we'll see. Going down the list, I mean, Arch.
Let me ask you this way. So Chris Lowe has his top 10 quarterbacks entering 2026. Let's just use this list as the definitive top 10 list. I'll ask you, John, Damian, who do you think is further up this list at the end of the season than where Chris has him right now? And I realize some of our lists might be different than where he has them now.
Sure.
So that's fine. Trinidad Chambliss, Arch Manning, Gunnar Stockton, John Mateer, Sam Leavitt 5, Lenore Sellers 6, Marcel Reed 7, Byron Brown 8, Kamario Taylor 9, Kenny Minchey 10. If there's one that's not on the list that you think is up the top 10, you can throw him in there as well. So, Greg, who do you think on that list takes the biggest leap just in these rankings based on where they are on that list and where you think they'll be at the end of the year?
I think Stockton's about where he will likely be. I think Arch and Trinidad are a coin flip, whatever side you're on.
Hard to move up from the top 3.
Yeah, I don't feel like there's a whole lot of movement to be made there. Who do they have 4 again?
John Mateer 4, Sam Leavitt 5, Sellers 6, Reed 7, Brown, Taylor, Minchey 8, 9, 10.
I think with Brown, you kind of are what you are at this point. I think with Mateer, there's definitely upward mobility to be had, but he's already at 4. Do I think he can crack the top 2? Be close. I like Minchey. I think Minchey's going to be in a really good situation. I could see him moving up, but
yeah,
the guy there to me is Lenore Sellers. I mean, he's at 6, and he's got the potential and the talent, and now a system that could easily vault him into the top 2 or 3.
Right.
I mean, like he's got that kind of game. So he's probably the one on that list that you could see maybe moving up the most.
Yep. Damian, is there a different name for you outside of Sellers that you think on this list takes the biggest leap as far as SEC quarterbacks?
Nah, I'd probably lean Norris Sellers. I want to believe in Marcel Reed, but I mean now he'll be a second-year starter, but it still feels as though he's reached kind of where he's going to be. Like, I don't think he can just leg up the rest of those guys ahead of him.
Do we have some pause with Marcel Reed, Greg, and we don't talk about it enough with the coordinator change? I understand the system's not going to be completely revamped and you have somebody who was in-house, but it's still a different coordinator. It's still a different play caller.
I'm more a little concerned about the quality of the supporting cast around him not being quite as good. The offensive line not being quite as good. The receivers not being quite as good. Like, Craver had good numbers last year and is a good player. But is he an alpha dog number 1?
Yeah, the ultimate dude there that helped him get that is gone.
Yes, correct. You revamp the tight end core. Like, you lose your top back, even though he was hurt for most of last year. I understand that. But my biggest struggle with Marcel is just you're going to have some really high highs. You're going to have a couple low lows. And that to me is a tough place to live. I mean, it's a bit of a roller coaster. Man, those highs are good. And when he's rolling, he is a handful.
Yep.
But he's got to prove to me that he won't make a critical error at a critical moment as well, because that has happened, unfortunately.
John, is there a different direction you would go here?
I probably would lean Byron Brown. Not that he's going to jump up to like 1 or 2, but I think with him being at 8, I think he can probably get into that top 5 QB. But with someone like a Leavitt or Sellers, I mean, they can jump up, but they'd only be jumping up, 2-3 spots? Where I think Byron Brown can jump up 4, maybe even 5 spots.
Well, and the other reason for that is if everything Greg just said about Marcel Reed, if some of the things we said about Lenore Sellers, if some of the things we've said about John Mateer continue and the other side doesn't happen, Byron Brown doesn't have to be elite to jump up 2-3 spots. If he just plays B+ football, Auburn wins 7-8 games, and some of those guys are making similar mistakes and not progressing, then all of a sudden he's 5. If nobody else, if Kamario Taylor, Kenny Minchie don't take that jump as well. So that's another part I think you have to look at that maybe feasibly him being able to make that jump. I'll go a little different direction because I think I'd be on board with you guys and sellers. If we're looking at possible ceilings here, like Kamario Taylor, yes.
For sure.
But there are some things that I've seen in his game that he needs to make some big strides in that I'm not sure are going to happen. Minchie, just because he's at 10 in an offense that's going to give him the capabilities to do a lot of things. I don't know how good his team's going to be. That could work against him with how we're viewing this. Unfortunately, that's how it goes.
That's definitely how it goes.
I think Sam Leavitt has a chance to make a massive leap here. Now, he got some guys in front of him that are really good. Trinidad, Arch, Gunner, even Mateer. It's going to be hard to leapfrog those guys. But when you think about what he's capable of inside the system he's going to be in, and similar to what we said about those other guys, Greg, a lot of it's got to go right, specifically with the offensive line. That's got to start first.
Yes.
I think a running back is going to have to step up and have a good feel for what they want to do in that system. Like you go back and you could say, well, Jerrion Ely, Quinshon Judkins were elite talents. Okay, well, it didn't work to that extent at a lot of other places they've been. Like they had a good feel for the system and the scheme that like Snoop Connor was awesome in that system. Like he's playing for the Birmingham Stallions. Like you still have to have a feel for how they want to do it and what they want to do. And they've been able to find those guys. If they get that and the offensive line's good, we all believe in the weapons. I think Sam Leavitt has the capabilities to make that jump. It's just that it feels like there's a lot more ifs with him maybe than there are some of the others. And also just, I mean, his physical ceiling is not where Kamario Taylor or Lenora Sellers is.
I think Leavitt's got a pretty high ceiling, actually. Like I think he's pretty sporty.
Well, I like him. I'm just saying, like overall athletic skill level, like Sellers, Taylor probably higher. Athletic
Sellers,
ability,
just bigger. I mean,
Kamario's a pretty big dude too.
That's what I mean. Just a bigger guy. I mean, they're just more difficult to bring down, and yet they still possess some of this quick twitch stuff, but they also can beat you with power too. Like you're not running Sam Leavitt on QB power on 3rd and 1. Like it's just a little bit different animal. But as far as like getting the ball out, getting it out quick, nice, accurate, good release, really good mobility. Like there's a lot to like about Leavitt. Like Leavitt's probably the other guy on that list that I could feel pretty strongly about jumping up there. I mean, like he could get into the top. Like I think Arch by season's end will be 1. I feel pretty good about that. Like I think he is poised and coiled to take a big leap. He's got a great supporting cast. He's got a great feel for the offense. Like the offensive line can't be worse. Like I think a lot of the things that people attach to him were not all his fault. Now he had some misses and didn't play great at times, but like, man, when he was going there at the end, like there's a lot of momentum carrying over from last year. And I think he's going to be in a really good spot this season.
Is there a guy that's not on this list outside of, let's say, one of the Alabama quarterbacks? A guy like, do you look at, I don't think we're going to go to Tennessee for this. I mean, obviously
maybe. I mean, what if Faison Brandon's
Faison
awesome?
might be the guy that you say, okay, coming in, could be that guy. I mean, I think Austin Simmons would be one who's not on the list that we say has the capabilities, has the tools, and is going to be in an offense that allows for some of it. He's going to be set up nicely to do some things, even though they'll run the ball a lot. He could be on this list by the end of the year. He could easily be top 10 by the end of the year if he's healthy and plays well.
No question.
We know if Faison is the guy, he's going to have the ability to put up the numbers in that scheme. Could be also a guy that's there on that list.
Yep.
I don't think Arkansas and Vanderbilt we're going to have enough confidence that they're going to be able to get a guy on this list, to be honest with you. We would agree with that. Philo, maybe?
No. I went back and watched him. I think he's fine. I don't know if he's got the Tramel Jones kid could be. I mean, like if somehow he wins, he's got a real live arm. He can really throw it. But it's early. It's too early. I don't know yet. It'd be irresponsible to put a Bama guy out there right now. It would be. I mean, I've got a lot of faith in the system.
Still a lot of new.
Too much new. Guess what? I wouldn't have had Ty Simpson in the top 10 going into last year. It's too much new. Don't know. So, I mean, you got to prove it. And a lot of these guys have done it. And we kind of know what they are. And it makes it a lot easier to forecast what they can be. So it's a complete dice roll. And the people that'll come out and say, oh, well, I put, Keelan Russell at number 6 going into the year and I got it right. That's awesome. But, like, he might not even start. It's like, to me, I'd rather err on the side of caution and go with what we know. And the only guys that I could justify putting on the list right now are the guys that have played extensively. And even Minchie's a tough one at this point to kind of trust. Yeah. But the reason why he's 10 is because he's going to start. We know that. Mm-hmm. That's assured. So, I don't know. I think it's a pretty good list, actually.
Yeah. But there are some guys that could jump. There are some guys who could fall. I want to go back to Alabama and discuss another part of this football team with you and ask, should fans be concerned about? Because there's a narrative that we've discussed and I felt like kind of put to rest, but now it's resurfacing that feels like it's going to be a problem for a lot of people. Before we do that, tell our listeners about Canty.
Well, Canty can fix it. That's for sure. We know that they are the foundation specialists here in the area. They'll do a great job. And one thing that I know for sure is that it's tough here in Birmingham to make sure that everything in your home stays according to plan because, frankly, we got elevation changes, we got topography. We also have a very wet and rainy season that we have to deal with almost every year. Well, Canty can fix it. And they can also save you the cost of full replacement if you've noticed cracks in your driveway or sidewalks. They have a poly-level solution that restores appearance, value, and safety, and it also does so without the mess. And we have a lot of clay in our soil, so that expands and contracts, which can cause a lot of havoc on concrete. So call Canty today. They offer free inspections and estimate, and their work is backed by lifetime's transferable warranties. So call them today at 205-509-3991 or visit them online at Canty, Cantey, canfixit.com. That's Canty, canfixit.com.
All right, we'll talk a little more Alabama football next on Jocks.
The capital of the sports talk nation. This is Jocks 94.5 and JocksFM.com. Birmingham.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Greg, we've heard multiple people go back and forth on this Alabama recruiting talk, that it's alarming, it's scary, we should be concerned. And you had one recruit last week, 4-star edge Antoine Jackson commits to Ole Miss over Alabama and Missouri, and this kind of got some people beginning to wonder kind of where this class was going to end up. It'll be a smaller class. We've tried to help people understand that. We've tried to help people understand kind of what that means as far as how you recruit, who you recruit. But at the end of the day, people are going to still look at the rankings, and that's going to be how they judge it, and that's going to be what they determine is a good job or a bad job by the coaches. Before we go into that, if you're looking for a new house, Gusty Gouls and the Gusty Gouls Group can help you. It is their job to make sure that they get you in prime real estate in Central Alabama. Since 2012, Gusty Gouls Group has been recognized both nationally and locally as Greater Birmingham, Alabama's #1 team in homes sold. Gusty has over 855-star Google reviews. So go to GustyGoulsGroup.com right now. You'll see the button at the top right-hand corner of the page. Smash that button. Very little information. Let's see what they think they can get for your home today. Call 205-542-1996. See what the Gusty Gouls Group can do for you. They've helped family members of mine. They've helped multiple Jocks listeners get into great new homes or get top dollar for their homes in Central Alabama. 205-542-1996 or visit GustyGoulsGroup.com today. 4 and 5 stars committed. 92% of this next class, Greg, have already committed.
Yes.
For 19 straight years, Alabama has been a composite top 5 team in recruiting.
Yes.
19. Mm-hmm. Composite, meaning all put together, they are a top 5 program.
Okay.
They potentially will not finish in the top 25 this year.
Okay.
Should Alabama fans be alarmed? Should Alabama fans be concerned?
Answer me this quickly. Ivan Taylor, Chuck McDonald, Jackson Lloyd, Derek Meadows, Justin Hill, A.K. Deere. Caleb Edwards, Duke Johnson, Marshall Pritchett. Handful of these guys played last year, right? Handful. These are all freshmen on last year's team.
Yep.
But who would you say was the best freshman on the team last year?
Ooh, best freshman.
Dijon Lee'd be in the mix, right?
He's up there. Yeah.
Michael Carroll.
There's some things I really like from him.
Okay, but the best freshman, probably Lottie Brooks, right?
He was good.
Yes.
Probably the best one. 3 stars. The 60th ranked wide receiver in the class. London Simmons gave him good reps last year at D tackle, right?
I'm excited about what he can do.
Yeah, pretty easy position to just step right into, right? D tackle.
Against who?
I mean, that's a piece of cake. Freshman, throw a D tackle in there. How hard can it be? It's only one of the hardest positions to transition into. Well, guess what? He was the 50th ranked D tackle in the country and was a 3-star prospect at a Hartfield Academy in Flowood, Mississippi. Like, guys, the star rankings are not going to bat 1,000 anymore. And guess what you also need to acknowledge? How many 4- and 5-star guys were on that Indiana team last year? Not a ton. Why? Because 4- and 5-star guys come with needs now that they never came with in the past. Like, there are additional layers of challenges to recruiting those guys. 1, the payroll, right? 2, the ego. I'm not saying that you shouldn't take them. I'm just saying it's not like if you're trying to build a culture and you're trying to build a foundation of a team and everything, like, it doesn't need to just be 4- and 5-star guys. Like, those guys are more difficult to satisfy now than they've ever been before. Why? Because they come in and they make a lot of money, and guess what? They might not pan out, and they might get paid early, and all of a sudden they disappear because they're comfortable and happy. Like, you want the guy with an edge. You want the guy with the chip on his shoulder. You want the guy that is like, I don't care, I'll earn it there. Like, there's some value to that. I love to know what Indiana's composite ranking was of their roster going into last year. And we all agree that was by far the best team, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Was it close?
Not really.
Not really.
Not for real. So, like, I'm not saying you don't take 4- and 5-star guys. Of course they're helpful. Of course you want them. But if you have a roster that is completely made up of them, you're going to have drama in some cases because you can't pay everybody. Like, you don't have unlimited resources. You can't pay everybody. So with only 9 seniors on the roster and developing into a developmental program in some cases, it's probably beneficial to not focus so much on the rankings and to focus more on the individual and trust the talent and trust the general manager and trust Kalen DeBoer, who have done a lot with less for a very long time and have consistently punched above their weight class. Because last time I checked, Courtney Morgan was the architect, or at least a partial architect, of 2 teams competing in the national championship game 2 years ago, Michigan and Washington. Courtney Morgan was involved with both rosters, worked at Michigan, went to Washington, helped put both rosters together. They played against each other in the national championship. So, Nan, given the fact 2-3 stars last year in the recruiting class, went in and made immediate impacts as a true freshman, I think I'm going to trust these guys. So they're putting their money towards talent retention and potentially backfilling in a few spots in the transfer portal for 2027 and beyond. So I wouldn't worry about it. Like, I think it's going to be just fine. It's only so much money to go around, but when you only have 9 seniors, you got to proceed with caution in delegating too many resources to freshmen, especially in an effort to get older as a roster in general. So I could care less where they rank in recruiting. So all I had to do is look at Indiana last year, and it didn't matter.
Totally fair.
Yeah.
And that goes back to some of the things we talked about that help build winners in today's college football, and we just don't know where a lot of that is right now. We'll continue that conversation and more next right here on Jocks.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, 3-man front video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.
8:48, Tuesday, July 7th, right here on Jocks. I think you accidentally stumbled upon something, Greg, that maybe we should be spending more time talking about with college football teams this upcoming season, and that is, who are the guys you're going to have to rely on? Some of those might be true freshmen for certain teams. Younger guys that were able to dip their toe in a little bit last year, able to gain just a little bit of experience. And I haven't had the time to qualify this for each and every team, say in the SEC or in college football. But from an Alabama perspective, it feels like there could be real value with younger guys that are going to be leaned on that have gotten some legitimate playing time. And I know people will look at quarterback and say, well, it was mop-up duty. A couple games didn't really count, or games that were blowouts. Not even referencing quarterbacks. Go to some of the other guys who you just referenced. Latsier Brooks is going to be one of your go-to wide receivers this year. He's going to be leaned on heavily. A guy that's going to have to play a lot. Michael Carroll is going to have to be big for your offensive line. I don't care if it's guard or tackle. He's going to have to play. He's too talented. He has too high of a ceiling. He has too much physical ability. He's going to have to be in the games. London Simmons, big-time length, big-time ability. He's going to need to be a force inside for you. And to have multiple players like that have now played some in real games, and even the guys that are third-year guys, like you look at a QB Reese and what he's been able to do, and some of the playing time that he's been able to get. Maybe not as extensive as 2-3 year starters, but these are guys that could be breakout players. I think it's almost similar to what I've been saying about Georgia a little bit, and why people are not really on Georgia right now to the extent that I think that they should be. And it's not all sophomores, true sophomores, redshirt sophomores that are coming back. Like, Juan Gaston was a legit starter. Dontrell Glover was a legit starter. Like, we don't have to talk about like those guys kind of dipping their toes in, but like we watched Elijah Griffin a little bit, see what he can do. Like, dude looks like he's going to be a player. I think he's somebody who is going to be a big help for what Georgia wants to be this year. Maybe Zayden Walker at linebacker, another guy that I think could be a bigger time player. We have talked about Ellis Robinson, but I don't think nationally a lot of people have really come on to what he's going to be, what he could be. So having those guys, Greg, that are second, third year players that look like they down the road are going to be big time, but we haven't seen quite enough for everybody to be on board with, that could be a huge benefit for Alabama this year.
Yeah. I mean, I think that could be a real benefit, and one that we need to be taking note of. You're not in this era gonna be able, with the resources that you have, just rinse and repeat every year and be in the mix every year. I just it's not gonna happen like that anymore. And that might sound disappointing, but it's the reality. I think the best way to build it is to build it from within, and to continue to just improve and improve and improve and improve, and hopefully you have some guys that supersede what's anticipated, and maybe you have a few guys that you got that are diamonds in the rough, a la Alati Brooks, a la a London Simmons. Like, maybe all that works, but I'm pretty optimistic about what they've done from a recruiting standpoint up to this point, and I remain optimistic in thinking that this group knows how to evaluate talent better than a lot of other groups. Like, you think Kurt Cignetti cares at all whether a guy has 4 stars or 5 stars next to his name? There's some schools that really put a premium on that. Look at what Oregon's doing. Like, Ohio State's similar. I mean, but guess what? They have endless resources. They have more money than everybody else. So, like, they can go out and go get those 4 and 5 star guys at Texas A&M. Like, they can go out and get all those guys, and guess what? They have enough money to keep them happy. Like, other places don't. So you got to pick and choose, and you got to go get the right guys.
It's going to be interesting to see kind of who steps up for Alabama. And now at Auburn, I think it'll be a little bit of a different mentality. Even though you have a fean of those guys, it'll be leaning to a little bit more on the players that are coming with goals from South Florida. Like, the guys who you need to step up this year to be real players for you this year, you probably need more guys that are coming in out of the portal than you do second, third year players that we haven't necessarily seen a ton of. Could be a couple of those. And we've talked about a few. A Bryce Kane at wide receiver could potentially be one of those. Defensively, I think you're going to need a few of those, by the way. Jared Smith, we've talked a lot about, whether it's a Jordan Crawford or Malik Autry inside. You're going to need a few other players that are going to have to step up for you on that side of the ball, more so than offense. But I think at Auburn, it's a little bit of a different scenario, Greg, where you got to get the transfers, have got to step up immediately and be a big help right out of the gate.
Yeah. I mean, that's I think really important. I think if you can have those guys, and look, there's a bit of an assumption here that they'll be able to punch above the weight class that they had to punch above last year, right? They're moving up in weight class, and that's a tough thing to do. Some people make it an easy transition. Others it's harder for. But I think Auburn's whole approach is very, very similar to what we've seen with success at Indiana. Everyone's trying to do the same thing. Like UCLA's doing the same thing with JMU players. Virginia Tech's doing the same thing with Penn State players. Penn State's doing the same thing with Iowa State players. Auburn's doing the same thing with USF players. Like, there's a lot of familiarity that's been created, and that maybe can give you a bit of an advantage.
No doubt. And some were able to go plug just more talented players, like in LSU. You have a couple guys that you have familiarity with, but also you go and get some guys that were just flat better than what you've had before. You look at what Florida's going to do. Couple guys that have been with Summerall, couple guys that have been with your offensive coordinator. You take advantage of some of the talent that you had on board there. Kentucky, a little bit of a hodgepodge. I think Kentucky actually did a good job of just going out and doing kind of what LSU did. Like, let's just go find the most talented guys we can get. Doesn't necessarily have to be the system fit. Doesn't have to be guys we've been around a ton. They don't all need to be that or mostly be that. Like, just get guys that are better than what we got. And I think they did that. Arkansas probably a little bit more on the, hey, we need some familiarity with these guys. They've been around us. We've been around them. Let's just move forward and see what we can do with guys because they're going to know the expectation and what we're asking of them. So all of that provides you with the mix that's right for you to be able to go out and win. Like you referenced with Indiana, you just got to find a way to make it work and make it fit. And I think that's where coaching plays in more today than it did 5, 10, 12, 20 years ago, where we could have found times that it leaned on scheme. It could have leaned on 5-star. Now, how do you form the continuity? Like, how do you find what works and what fits for you? And that could be very different week 5 to week 1.
1,000%.
But the coach has got to figure that out.
100%. Continuity, buy-in. You got buy-in. Everyone's pulling the same direction, dude. That matters. It matters. Like, culture wins. Now,
and that comes with what? Belief, trust,
belief, understanding skill sets of the players. Like, what do they do well? How do I put them in a scheme that would best accentuate what they do well? Like, there's a lot. I mean, that takes years to understand. So, like, if you have years built up with guys, you can put them in a better position to be their best. Not doing it in a 1-year cycle, and you might not know what a guy is until week 8. That's a tough thing.
Fair. Some of these guys don't know what they are until week 6 or 7 as players, especially in a new scheme and a new system. That takes a long time to develop, and that's why part of college football is going to be a lot more fun to watch here in the next few years, just based on the differences and where guys are and what they've been. Hour number 3 coming up. We will talk more college football, a couple of the week 1 lines that we got to yesterday that we didn't necessarily get to hit on individually. We'll hit on that, and then we'll talk an agreement between Auburn and Alabama with Adam Cole next hour as well.
This is McElroy and Cubelic in the morning